We're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at the Blue Sun expansion for Firefly the board game. This one's the first big box expansion for the game. It adds new sectors of space, as well as more Reaver ships to make them more of a threat. It adds two new contacts, Mr. Universe and Lord Harrow. Harrow's a little bit more of the same of what we've got. Mr. Universe is a completely new thing. We got a new nav deck for maneuvering around the red rim space now. A new supply planet and a couple new captains in there. So we'll open it up and take a look. So inside the box, first thing is the board. It's actually quite tiny by comparison to the original game. It's only two new sections here. And these will actually go this way along the left hand side of your existing game board. And this actually up here connects onto Georgia. Adds this whole new section here though of the red, which is rim space. We have Blue Sun down here with Meridian, which is our new supply planet. We have Lord Harrow's home here on Highgate. The Ouroboros Belt, I think I'm saying that right, is the Asteroid Belt here. Similar to the one that we had in the original game. We have Mr. Universe here on Cortex Relay 7. The expanded Reaver space here where all of the new Reaver ships are going to start. And then Miranda up here in the corner. The box comes with a pretty neat insert that holds everything for the expansion. But once you punch out the tokens and things, it's definitely not going to be enough. Most people I know combine it right with the original game anyway. We have our two new Reaver ships in here. That's supposed to be where you put your tokens. Then you have your new mission and setup cards here. This is normally where your decks of cards for the expansion go. I threw all my tokens in there for now because I sleeved my cards and they don't fit in there anymore. So again, it's a decent insert for what comes with it, but once you combine it with your others, it's just not big enough for the expansion anymore. And we have our new rulebook. And this explains some of the new rules that go with the new cards, about the new leaders. Shows you there where the expansion goes. Talks a little bit about all the new cards and tokens, as well as how the new nav decks work, how to work with the new Reaver tokens, the new alert tokens, which actually add quite a bit to the game. Between having the extra Reavers and the alert tokens, it really makes them a lot more of a threat than they used to be. And a little bit about the new contacts and how they work. Mr. Universes are really cool. We'll talk about them more when we get to them. And a new addition that they added was the credit exchange. It allows you to trade money with players regardless of where they are on the board. However, to trade goods, crew, and ship upgrades, you still have to be in the same sector as normal. Explanation of what goods are, because they use that term a lot in this expansion. Pretty much any cargo, contraband, fuel, or parts are considered goods. And under here is where I stashed all my cards. And yes, the horror, they have bands around them. So there's kind of a quick look of everything that comes in the expansion. Lots of stuff here. Bunch of add-ons for stuff we already have. You get 5 new missions for each of the 5 base contacts that are in the original game. Those all deal with the new systems and things that are in this new section of space. Having you run back and forth or deliver goods here or pick stuff up from here and so on. So they shuffle into your standard decks. It really sucks when these are sleeved, but we already played a couple games with it, and I didn't want to unsleeve everything. But you have some new border space cards. These are used to replace cards in the old deck and just have some new wording. I think they're mostly all the same cards. There are a bunch of Reaver on the Hunt cards and Reaver bait cards, as well as the Cutter. And these just replace the cards in the other deck, and they have a basically new wording on them that includes rim space as well as border space. You get a handful of more disgruntled tokens and some goal and warrant tokens. I think those were just in there just to not waste extra space on cardboard that was already being printed. You get a new set of Haven tokens, which now they're all matching size, so you have one of each color that are all the same size. They also have the goal icons on the back side, so you can use them to mark various goals and objectives for the story mission you're playing. We get 3 new mission scenarios and 2, well, they say 2 new setup cards, but it's kind of a cop-out because one of the 2 setup cards they give you is just the standard game setup on a card. So it's the same format as all the others. This is the same basic startup that's explained in the rulebook. So there really isn't anything new there, but that one's included, so now you have a card for it. This is the new setup. Changes a little bit about how things in the game start. And I think this one specifically makes Alliance space a little more dangerous. And just an alternative to your basic normal startup. I think a lot of people use the brown coat way because it's the most fair with the add-on ships. We also have 3 new missions here, as I said. There's the Great Recession, Patience War, and Any Port in a Storm. They all have new goals, new stories that go with them. One of the biggest changes in this expansion, though, are these tokens here. This giant pile of them. These are our alert tokens. They have a Reaver icon on one side and an Alliance icon on the other. And these are used to represent systems that the various ships have been in. Every time the Alliance cruiser or the Reaver ships leave a system, they drop one of these behind. And you have to roll a die each time you enter a system that has one of these. And if you roll equal to or less than the number of tokens that are there, it will summon that ship to you. And in the case of the Reavers, that can be very bad. So once the ships move around a little bit, these end up all over the board, which some people say is kind of an annoying mechanic. I think it's cool because it adds a lot more threat. And it keeps people from dancing the ships back and forth. Because if you tend to move them just back and forth, you'll pile them up really quickly. And as soon as there's 6 of these on a square, you really pretty much can't go there without the ship coming. And as far as the Reavers go, it gets pretty bad. We've had 6 piled up on Mr. Universe's place before, and nobody went there anymore at that point. Then the 3 Reaver space icons up in the top corner of the map actually have a permanent one of these. So even when there's no ships there, no tokens there, those are still always considered to be there. Next thing we have with the new rim space navigation deck. It's a little bit smaller than the other decks for now. It only pertains to the outer edge here. Even some of these on the inside are still part of the existing map of border space. But the rim space cards can do really good things and really bad things. You have your basic Reaver Cutter, which is your reshuffle card. There's several bad things that can happen to you, as well as some really good things. I mean, these locking horns over scraps things get you loot no matter what you do. There's one in here that lets you, you just basically run into someone out in the middle of nowhere. This is one here. Objects in space. Fancy meeting you here. Lets you take 1 crew card from any discard pile for free. It's kind of cool. It doesn't make you stop, but there's some interesting ones in there. A couple detrimental ones. It's a little more risky than border space. A lot more chance of running into Reavers out there. For our new supply planet, Meridian, have a new supply deck. Again, it's a little bit shorter than the other ones because it hasn't had the extra expansions to add cards to it. But you got some new crewmen in here. There's a handful of really useful equipment cards. Some really cool ship upgrades. The flying mule from the movie. Simon's Sonic Stun Baton was also from the movie. It's a really cool weapon. Absolutely love this drive core. It's a little pricey, but basically gives you a chance to avoid the Alliance cruiser and the Reavers anytime you run into them. The flak guns let you discard to ignore Reavers pretty much. Lots of neat things in here. Definitely worth swinging over there and checking out the planet. Next we have Lord Harrow's missions. He's over in Highgate Blue Sun. He gets you an extra $500 when you're completing a smuggling or shipping job, which is kind of cool. And he also is the only contact so far that you can buy cargo from. He sells it to you at $300. You can load up your cargo bay, then fly someplace else and sell it off for a profit. Or if you happen to lose your cargo for various reasons and you need it to complete a mission, you can go back to him and buy some more, which is nice once you're solid with him. The majority of his missions are illegal, but there are a handful of legal ones in there. Mostly shipping, smuggling. I think they're all shipping and smuggling, to be honest. Yeah, I think they all are. And various requirements. Decent amount of payout, though. I mean, $2,000 for a legal shipping job is pretty high. There is a long travel time. You're going all the way over to Persephone for this one. But still decent ones. Pretty much more of the same kind of stuff that we've already seen in the game. Nothing new, really. Our other new contact for this expansion really changes things up a little bit. Mr. Universe here. Once you're solid with him, you can deal with him from any sector. Becomes really useful if you get stranded out in the middle of nowhere with a breakdown or full stop card and you have nothing else to do for your second action of a turn. You can deal with him, at least you can do something. He also gives you +2 to your hand size for your jobs, which is nice. The thing that's kind of odd about his is that they're not jobs in particular, they're add-ons to other jobs. And they're also legal and illegal, just like any other jobs. Illegal ones have to be attached to illegal jobs. Legal ones have to be attached to legal jobs. They give you the following restrictions. So in this case, you can't use any tech skill points for tests while working on that job. If you fail the job, you also lose this as well. But if you succeed, you get $500 extra per misbehave that you needed to do for the mission. So, and they're all various things like that. Some are a flat B like those there. This one actually lets you load contraband, various rewards like that throughout the deck. The trouble is getting his started, because at the beginning you can only hold 3 jobs in your hand. These have to be played when you start a job, so you have to have this and the current job in your hand, which takes up a lot of hand space, considering you can't actually do anything with these without a job to attach it to. Once you're friendly with him and you get that extra +2 to your hand size, it's not so bad, but getting that first one in sometimes can be pretty difficult to get things lined up to get them out of the way. Once you're friendly, though, it becomes a lot nicer. Then we have 2 new captains that came with the expansion here. Atherton, who has fancy duds, fake ID, but he cannot have a companion of any kind on his ship. He gets 2 negotiation and a fight skill. Overall, he's not a bad captain. Then we have Captain Murphy, who's a medic, a mechanic. He is moral. He is a trader baron, which every time you sell cargo or contraband to a contact, you get an extra $100. Plays in pretty good with Lord Harrow being able to buy cargo from him and resell it. He's got 2 tech and a fight skill, which makes him pretty all around. I like him just because of his keywords. Having a mechanic and a medic right off the bat just makes him extremely powerful. He is moral, so you got to keep that in mind. I usually tend to stick to moral jobs anyway, so it's pretty nice as far as I'm concerned. Overall, the expansion does what it's supposed to. It adds a lot to the game. Just adding a few sectors isn't too terribly much, but you get the new supply planet, you get the 2 new contacts, you get the more Reaver ships, which make the Reavers a much more of a threat, even on the far side of the board. Once one of them gets moved over there through various cards in the nav deck, you're going to be putting these tokens out, and it makes them a lot more threatening. The cruiser as well, to an extent, A lot of the time, though, unless you have a specific mission to come over to this section of space, the only reason you're ever going to come over here is probably to deal with Mr. Universe. Haro's jobs pay pretty well, but they're kind of borderline compared to some of the other people's for what you need to do for them. A lot of them are long trips for a reasonable amount of money, but unless you have something else that's already sending you over here, which is why we have the extra jobs to add to the other decks, some of those will make you come over to these systems. Then you're already over here, you might as well pick up a job from him and do things like that. Some of the new missions require you to come over to these systems. Again, forcing you to use them. There's a lot of player-made scenarios too. Once you've actually been over here, though, it's not nearly as bad. The tokens some people don't like. They say they slow down what's already a long game. I kind of like them just for the added thematic ability. They really don't take that long. You just have somebody whoever's turn it isn't, throws the tokens down as the ships move and whatnot. Keeps track of them. Rolling for them isn't all that horrible. It's a quick D6 roll. You're flipping over the cards anyway. You can do it in the same amount of time it takes you to flip over the cards. Usually the person moving will roll for the token as the other person's getting ready to flip over the cards in our group. And it works pretty well. I do like having 3 Reaver ships now. You have 2 from this expansion plus the original roaming around. Especially once you get some of the nav cards that pull them over to the other side of the board and they're all spread out. Because they really become a threat everywhere. And a bunch of cool new upgrades in the Meridian deck to let you deal with the increased Reaver threat. Overall, I think it's a pretty solid expansion. I like the fact that we're getting more systems to fly through. I wish there were more reasons to come over here. There aren't a lot of planets. I've got all my stuff out here. So you got 5 planets over here in Blue Sun that you can use as a haven. There's Deadwood, Fury, Mule, which I'm sure I'm saying wrong, New Cannon, and Dragon Egg. Then you got Highgate and Meridian, which are Lord Haro and the new supply planet. You got Shadow over here. That's part of, I can't remember what that tiny little system is. That's below Georgia there, but that attaches onto that. You got the Cortex Relay where Mr. Universe is. Then you got Miranda up there, which is pretty much, unless it is used for a mission, is never going to go to because it's just so dangerous to get up there. There's almost always going to be 2 tokens at least on these squares because this is where your Reaver ships start. All 3 of them. And the very least thing they do is move off. And as soon as they move off, you're going to put one of these tokens there. So there's already going to be 2 tokens on there. So it's a 30% chance of running into Reavers just by going through there at any given point during the game. So you have to keep that in mind. So the Miranda rarely gets used unless it's part of the storyline mission for the game. But like I said, there's a handful of new planets. I would like to see some more reasons to come over here. And I'm sure there will be as time goes on. There's already another expansion out for the game, which adds another piece like this to the other side of the board. And there's possibly some stuff in there to make you go back and forth. Don't have that one myself yet to check it out, but lots of, like I said, player-made stories, missions will bring you over to this system too. And it just adds on to the existing game. You don't ever have to come over here unless you're playing a scenario specific for it. Which is another nice thing. It lets you avoid this and you can just stick playing your normal game if you want to. And use some of the new features out of here. I really like the random encounters and things in the Rim Space deck. As well as the new equipment, as I mentioned, that comes with the Meridian deck. And overall, it's just a fun addition to an already fun game. It may expand your play time a little bit, your setup time. But it's well worth it in the end. If anybody enjoys the game, then they're definitely going to enjoy the game with the expansion on there. Just sorry it took me so long to get it myself and do a review of it. Anyway, that's it for this one, and we'll see you in the next video.